Good evening. Today is a special meeting of the Shasta County Board of Supervisors. It is Thursday, March 27th, and the time is 4 p.m. We have 4 supervisors present, with Supervisor Plummer of District 4 absent. We also have CEO Dave Ricker, County Counsel Joseph Larmer, and from the Clerk of the Board, in front of me, Stephanie Blankenship. We encourage those wishing to participate in public comment, fill out a speaker request card and submit it to the Clerk of the Board in the tray designated down by the clerk to the right. All speaker request cards must be submitted to the clerk before public comment for item R1 begins. With that, I will ask you all to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Supervisor Kelster.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know many have heard me comment before at supervisors meetings that it's something to have Chris Kelster lead the pledge behind it from his voice coming down. With the acoustics here, it's even better. So with that, Ms. Fugit, if you'd like to come up. This is R1. Today's agenda item has one issue on it. It is the County Clerk Register of Voters appointment about that process. There's not going to be an appointment today. Ms. Fugit.
Good afternoon, Chair Cried, members of the board, Monica Fugit, Director of Support Services. In light of the current notice of resignation from Tom Toller, we're here to just discuss the options available to the board to fill the vacancy. Government Code Section 25304 provides the board shall fill by appointment the vacancy that occurs in elective offices. The appointee of the Board of Supervisors would hold the position for the remainder of the unexpired term. Similar vacancies have occurred in the past in the position of County Clerk ROV in 2024, District Attorney in 2017, Auditor Controller, and Sheriff Coroner in the past, and those offices were similarly filled by appointment of the Board of Supervisors. However, the code does not specify how the appointment shall be made or any formal procedures that must be used in doing so. A common question that comes up that has been discussed at length at various times is whether or not a special election can be held. The Government Code section shared on the previous slide provides that the vacancy be filled by appointment, but does not identify any options available for election in the event of a vacancy. Further, the recent Measure Q failed in November 2024, which would have amended the Shasta County Charter to add language allowing for the position to be filled by special election. There is one exception provided in Government Code which applies only under certain circumstances which do not apply to this particular vacancy, where Mr. Toller is expected to resign in the middle of his term. The person elected shall serve for the remainder of the term, which will begin on the first Monday after January 1st, immediately preceding the election. As to whether or not we can leave the position vacant, there is no time frame specified in Government Code. It just states the Attorney General has opined that it must be within a reasonable time frame, and inaction is not authorized by the statute. Options available for appointment are either to have the board direct an appointment of a specific individual to fill the vacancy, or to recruit to fill the position. The first option, the board can direct staff to bring back at a future date a board item that would designate a specific individual to fill the position. With that, it would require also a waiver of the county personnel rules, which indicate that department head positions be filled on the basis of fair and open competition. Examples of direct appointments to elected positions without recruitment are Noel DeShort to the Auditor Controller position in 2021 and Mike Johnson to Sheriff Coroner in 2021. The second option that's available is to direct staff to open a recruitment for the position and make the appointment following a competitive recruitment process. If selected, that will require various input from this board as to how that process will be played out. And we'll discuss that further in the slides that will follow. Other positions that were filled following a recruitment are the recruitment for Tom Toller in 2024, Eric McGreeny in 2019, and Stephanie Burgett in 2017. We're going to go through the recruitment process, and I will discuss the various items that I'll need input from the board. In general, this is an overview of that process. It would involve identifying the application and advertisement period, identifying the process and the individuals to conduct the screening of applications, discussing the interview process that would be held, and then conditional offer and background of the selected individual to be followed by an appointment by the Board of Supervisors. The advertisement period is subject to input by the board if a recruitment is the option selected by this board. Typically for an executive level recruitment, we recommend 4 weeks. There have been times where we have run recruitments for both shorter and longer time frames depending on the direction. Regardless of the length of advertisement period, we would employ various advertisement methods such as direct contacts to individuals who are identified through our online recruitment system, as well as posting online through CSAC, National Association of Counties, and other job boards related to the specific position. These are the minimum statutory requirements for the position, which provide that the appointee must be a voter of Shasta County at the time of appointment, and that the appointee shall not act as a collector or lawyer for any collection agency in the county. That said, the board can direct staff to screen to minimum qualifications that they identify. This could be above and beyond the statutory requirements. One option that has been used in the past is to identify an ad hoc committee of the Board of Supervisors to conduct the screening in coordination with personnel and identify the top candidates who will move forward to the interview process. If minimum qualifications were to be used in the screening process, just an example of minimum qualifications that have been identified in other counties as potential criteria to fill this position are to have a bachelor's degree in public administration, business administration, or related field, and 4 years of experience managing elections administration or county clerk functions within a public sector organization, and allowing a substitution of education or experience for education. This is just an example. The board can direct what these minimum qualifications would be, as well as who will conduct the screening process. Those candidates who pass the screening process would be invited to participate in an interview process. The interview process can be managed in any number of ways. 2 common options we have seen in the past are to first conduct an initial interview with the ad hoc committee identified by the board, and then bring the top candidates forward for open session interviews. The second option, and the option we used in the last recruitment, was to have all candidates who passed the initial screening process brought forward for open session interviews. Upon completion of the interviews, if the board wishes to move forward with making an offer to one of those candidates, the board could make a motion and provide direction to extend a conditional offer to the top candidate contingent on the results of the background investigation. The salary of the position is established at $12,786 monthly. All elected salaries are set at a flat amount. There is no salary range as there would be with other appointed positions. At that point, after a conditional offer has been made, the board can direct staff to conduct a background investigation, including a live scan, review of work history, contacts with references, and more. Alternately, the board could also direct staff to engage a consultant to do an investigative background. As this appointment would be to an elected vacancy, it is recommended that this Board of Supervisors designate the CEO and support services to review the completed background and make a recommendation to the board as to whether or not to move forward. If there are no concerns, the appointment item would then proceed. Otherwise, the staff would return to the board to seek direction as to the next candidate to invite or appoint to the position. This is an estimated timeline should the board direct staff to process a recruitment. Timeframes obviously are variable based upon input and direction from the board. Once the dates are finalized, we would advertise these dates on any job flyer and throughout the application process. If this recruitment process is not completed prior to Mr. Toller's departure, the position would remain vacant until action is taken by the board to appoint a successor. In the interim, absent any action taken otherwise, the Assistant County Clerk ROV, Joanna Francesca, would become the acting department head. There would be no additional compensation afforded to her during this time, as traditional working out of class rules do not apply to elected positions. So just to recap, I know that's a lot of information, but this is the information I am seeking from the board today through this meeting. First and foremost, whether the board is directing a recruitment occur or a direct appointment occur. And then if a recruitment is the direction, who will be conducting that screening? As well as what would be the screening criteria to be used, and whether any additional minimum qualifications would be applied above and beyond the statutory minimum requirements. Regarding the screening process and the ad hoc committee to be assigned to conduct that screening, if that was the direction provided, there are many different approaches that could be taken as far as how that screening would occur, and that could be either the last recruitment we did, one individual member of that ad hoc committee could elect to advance someone to the next step in the process. It could be a majority decision of the ad hoc committee, or that committee could review against those minimum qualifications. So there's a variety of options there. The interview process, as a reminder, the common structure is to either have an ad hoc committee do an initial interview and identify top candidates to be interviewed in open session, or all screened-in candidates to be invited for those open session interviews. Interview materials and questions. We'd look to obtain direction for the personnel department and CEO and the ad hoc committee to approve the interview questions and materials to be used for open session interviews, to avoid having to bring this back to the board at a later date. And then last, providing feedback regarding the timeline. If there are, my ask would also be that the board authorize the CEO to make amendments to that schedule as needed. Outside of these items, the board could, of course, provide other direction. And while I realize this is a lot to discuss and to take on, if we can really try to fine-tune the process now, it will avoid us having to bring this back multiple times. In the prior recruitment process, we brought this back 3 times prior to the open session interviews. So I am happy to help take any questions and or discuss the process that was used last time if needed.
Thank you, Director Fugit. So I always start the conversation off before we before we public comment. I think the process of having this done publicly, I think is really important. And I didn't just speak earlier because, as the agenda said, it says consider options related to vacancy of the clerk, county clerk, register of voters. So when I said we're not making an appointment today, I don't actually have that power, unless there's a motion up here. But my intention is for this to be about to set the process we learned from the last time, and hence this is why Measure Q was so important to me, is I really thought this needs to go to the voters, but many of you didn't like that. So we're going to go through this process again. What I would recommend is we post the job tomorrow, and I'm not making this a motion right now, I'm just talking through it. I think we post the job tomorrow, we let it run for roughly 3 weeks, close it on the 20th. I'm going to bring forth a motion to put myself and Supervisor Plummer on an ad hoc that would do the screening process. We would call for interviews that week, the 21st, and then do an open interview process on what I'm thinking would be April 30th. That fits within the window, I believe. Minimum qualifications, BA-related managerial or leadership experience, and then that would be the conversation starter. What I don't want to do is I don't think we need to interview 10 or 12 people. I think the ad hoc committee could get it down to 3 or 4, maybe 5 tops, and go from there.
Was that a motion?
Well, it's more of a conversation but yeah, I mean, I would like to, if there's other input of Supervisor Long, Supervisor Harmon, you guys, Supervisor Kelster and I have been through this, so.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'd like to see it. I don't want to impose on staff, but I'd like to see it done even quicker, but shooting for the 13th, would that be too difficult to find out?
No.
Okay.
No.
And one of the things too is what I realized from last time, and I learned this from past electeds as well, but if you appoint a department head not to the elected office position, but if a person does that job for 2 or 3 or 4 months, they're not compensated more. And I don't think that's okay. And I worked really, really hard to try and get around that for our assistant ROV last time when Kathy Darling Allen left office for essentially 3 or 4 months. And so that's one of the urgencies for me to get this filled.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
I don't see a queue here.
I just realized that.
Yeah, I'm just
Supervisor Long.
I'm just going to have to cut in.
Yeah.
I think the first question we should decide is appointment versus recruitment, and then we can proceed to the next step if we get that far. So do we want discussion on the board, or do we all have our thoughts on that?
I'm sure we all have our thoughts on that, but if there's a motion, I mean,
Okay, I will make a motion that we do a recruitment process.
I would second that. Yeah, okay. We will be taking public comment before we take any votes. But, okay, so, I mean, is there, Supervisor Harmon, is there anything that you want to weigh in about any of this? Because what I want is, many of you are here, public comment. I'm not sure how many speaker request cards we have. All this is about the process. So if you're going to come in, you have your 2 minutes. You can say whatever you'd like as it relates to R1, but I'm just trying to make sure everybody understands. This is because what's happened in the past, to my knowledge, is all this stuff happens behind closed doors. We're going to do it publicly once again. I think that's important. So if you're going to come in and campaign for something, I would rather hear personally, and maybe everyone else can articulate, if you don't like the process, tell us your thoughts and solutions about the process, not about a candidate or a specific individual or a political ideology. I really care more about the process. I would love to hear input about the process, because that's what we're voting on today.
I would agree with that.
Huh? Good day. All right, with that, I think Supervisor Kellstrom?
Well, no, I was going to say, and I'm with you, Alan, I think we should do the recruitment also. Would you be okay with pushing it to the 13th rather than the 20th? The sooner the better, in my opinion, but.
Oh, you mean closing the recruitment on the 13th?
Right.
I think, Ms. Fugit, could you back up the slides? 'Cause I think.
In the slide, it was recommended the 20th, but that's why I asked her if it would be not imposing on her to move it to the 13th.
Yeah, the period was 3/28 through 4/20.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I personally, I mean, what's important to me is the, you know, I was looking at it, just looking at my calendar, I was looking at like April 30th to May 2nd, somewhere in there, having the special meeting for the interviews, the open session, which would be the week of April 27th. But I mean, because my thing, Supervisor Kellstrom, is if we did the screening and we closed it on the 13th, and we still did interviews on the 30th, we might as well recruit for one more week. Because,
Well, all that would be pushed back a week. Correct, Montgomery?
Yeah, the limitation that we have is that there is no scheduled board meeting outside of the 13th.
We certainly know we can call an emergency one. We've proven that.
yeah, but I know that I think there's 2 supervisors gone the week of the 20, I want to say it's the 24th.
Are either one of you or Plummer?
One of them's me.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Supervisor Long, I mean, do you care if it's a shorter, do you care if it's a, what would you, how about this? I'll just ask you to, Supervisor Long, would you prefer a 2 or 3 week recruitment?
Well, I would say generally the 3-week would be preferable. However, we could do that to accommodate time if staff feels that that is sufficient to get this process done on their perspective. I don't want to.
I'm not concerned about the time frame to get the screening and the interviews done. Really, the shorter you go on that time frame, though, then the less time there is to get the word out there and try and get potential applicants to apply. So my concern is less about that and more about just how long are we going to advertise it and get the word out there.
We're talking 2 weeks versus 3.
Correct.
I prefer 2 weeks.
I think 2.
2.
I could live with 2.
I think we're gonna get everything.
I'm gonna vote it. This is good stuff. That's great.
Well, I think you're going to try to, narrow it down to 4 or 5, and I think those 4 or 5 are going to be the first ones in there. So, I mean,
It just gives them a little more time.
And just to be clear, we would
2 weeks gives
also,
them more time than 2 weeks.
No, you get all your nominations, your candidates, 2 weeks, and now you got a little more time to
To
process.
select them. I see. Supervisor, CEO Rick.
Mr. Chairman and Board, I would like you to at least consider the fact that we're not actually in chambers. It's somewhat challenging, so I would request that you at least consider what our calendar looks like to try to make it work as best as possible.
Well, we're talking about the recruitment period, not the actual meeting. The meeting will be April 30th through May 2nd, I believe, is what. Ms. Blankenship.
Thank you, Chair. So one thing that I have done in anticipation of it being during the week of April 27th is I have reached out to our community partners to hold meetings within their chambers. And as of right now, I've only gotten confirmation that the 30th is available at the City of Shasta Lake. All other locations are not available for the 29th, the 1st, or the 2nd. But I can, if we do move it up, I can certainly look at the week prior to that. But it would be dependent on whether a location was available.
Okay. So, okay. So,
Chair.
I mean, the week of, so if we did, Supervisor Long, so do you want the recruitment to be, I mean, I was trying to give it a little bit more time. Are we saying we're trying to move it forward faster?
The recruitment.
The recruitment,
Just strictly the recruitment.
well, I mean, go ahead, I'm sorry.
My biggest concern was the impact on staff and getting this all done, but if that's not an issue, I think we can get it done by the 13th.
Have the recruitment done by the 13th?
Correct.
So then what we would do is we would take the week of the 14th then to screen applicants, the week of the 14th, and then have the interviews on the 30th or the 1st or the 2nd, somewhere in there. And if that works with your schedule, Supervisor Martin, and Long and Custer.
Well, and then, and your schedule, Stephanie, so the 30th, right, is the only option you have right now?
That is the only option, but again, I only looked at that 1 week. So if we're moving it up and I can look at the week prior to that, I can certainly do
It
that.
won't be the week of the 21st.
When do we have the?
I think,
So the week of the 28th, the only day that's available for us to have an alternative location is the 30th.
And that's an SRTA meeting, 3 of us are supposed to be there, so we'll have to get that changed too.
and we can move an SRT.
Yeah.
And when is the Ledge Conference?
25th, oh, that's right, 23rd, that's what it was, 23rd, 24th, and 25th is CSAC. That's, we're all in Sacramento.
Right.
That's what, I knew there was something.
Is it the 23rd?
23rd to the 25th, we're all supposed to be in Sacramento. So here's what I would say, and I spent probably 4 hours on this yesterday. I mean, this is great, because Director Fugit came up with some different things, but I thought if we ran the recruitment to the 20th, on the 21st, 21st and 22nd, an ad hoc, committee, I'm gonna make it, like I said, I'm gonna make a motion, and Supervisor Plummer and I do it. And then that would give them basically 7 to 10 days to call the applicants for a meeting on the 30th, if we could do the 30th, April 30th. But all 5 supervisors need to be there, because I think there needs to be 5 votes, there needs to be an odd number.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but during the last process that I watched, didn't each supervisor bring back a candidate?
Correct. So my thoughts are, we get this down to a pool of 3, 4, at the most 5, and there's 1 interview on the 30th. Those are final interviews. We pick one of those. And if you want to be on the committee instead of Plummer, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Yeah, I would.
Okay. Well, Matt, what do you think? Oh, he's not here. So,
This is what happens when you disappear.
yeah, no. It's he's going to get you for that comment. He's consulting. All right. So I think let's take public comment. Again, this is about solutions in the process, not about a candidate or a person, but you have your 2 minutes, however you see fit, as long as it pertains to our fund. Monica, Ms. Fugit, are you good?
Yes.
Thank you. All All right, Ms. Blankenship, if you want to go through the queue, what that looks like.
Thank you. First up is Tiffany. After Tiffany, we have Steve Kahn. After Steve, Don Duckett, then Laura Hobbs.
Queue.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak today. This will be shorter than the last time I spoke. This is good that you had this meeting. I appreciate Ms. Fugit for putting up the process. My only concern is that when the screening and the recruiting happens, that the minimum criteria is met by the candidates. It seemed, and I don't mean to be rude, but it seemed like it was a bit of a circus last time with the candidates that were coming forward. So I really do appreciate this. I appreciate you putting everything out front for us, and thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Kahn, followed by Don Duckett, followed by Laura Hobbs. I do see a lot of new faces in here tonight, so I just want to let everybody know that the timer does start once you approach the lectern and the mic.
First of all, R1 is consider options related to the vacancy of the county clerk registrar of voters position and consider directions to staff. I don't see why that wouldn't include also the idea of appointing an individual and considering that. I think that is included in that statement. We already went through this process about 9 months ago, and we can use the prior process because it hasn't been a year. And even you, Cry, said that had Toller not gotten the office, you would have appointed Joanna Francesca. So I can't think of anybody with more experience. She has done the job during the time when Kathy Darling Allen was ill. She's done the job basically when Toller was ill, and also Toller was being taught by her basically. And you said she thought she should have more experience. She's been through another election and basically pulled it off all of this stuff by herself. So I'm not even understanding why we're going through this process. We just went through it. We're going to spend money to do it again. We can use the old recruitment process, and I think it's clear that there is one outstanding individual to fill the position, probably the best in California and perhaps the best in the nation because of all of the challenges that have been she has succumbed or not succumbed to, but survived. The printing errors prior to that, the setting up for hand counting, and then still pulling off an election with new equipment. So I don't know how you could get anybody better than that.
Good evening, Board. I totally agree with everything Steve said and also the first speaker that spoke. I was going to get up here and ask the Board to be mindful of costs and to go through the existing list of viable candidates that we already have. It sounds to me that you're not going to do that. But I would like you to be a little bit more transparent this time about the screening process and also about your method of rating the candidates upon the interviews. Supervisor Cry, I do appreciate that you don't want to bring the candidates back for a second interview. That was a very cumbersome process. And let's put forward only fully qualified candidates this time. Thank you.
Laura Hobbs, followed by Gordon Richards, then David Halligan. After David, Jeff Porter.
Good evening, Board. I would just like to say that we need to look at the qualities of the next ROV. And I highly discourage you from even considering Joanna Francesca. She actually has cost this county a lot of money in lawsuits.
Please be respectful.
And she actually, in this last election, it turns out that she hid some data that should have been published regarding the manual tally The manual tally is what tells you about the accuracy of the
Make sure we
machines.
stick to R1.
And she hid that from us. So she's done things, she's broken laws. In the Hobbs trial, it was mentioned that laws were broken. However, the judge didn't think that was sufficient to overturn the outcome. But these things that happen, clerical or not, they end up costing the county a lot of money. And what's happening right now is that election observers are being denied the right to
Stick
observe.
to R1.
So whoever you choose for this position has to be somebody who absolutely values the citizens' involvement in the election process. Citizens are meant to be involved from the start to the finish. We need to get back to precinct level hand counting. And I think that if you choose, as you're selecting your candidates, you need to keep that quality in mind. You need to also keep in mind the fact that the citizens here have been mistreated horrifically by Joanna Francesca and others. So as far as the ad hoc committee, I would recommend that you have 3 individuals on that committee.
You can't, that's a Brown Act violation.
Oh, you can't? Okay. Well, in that case, I would recommend you consider a different composition of that. Thank you.
Lori Birchford, followed by David Halligan, and Jeff Porter, and Judy Salter.
Good evening, Chair and Board. Lori Birchford. Could you repeat, I hope that we have our code of conduct where people aren't heckling, yelling, interrupting, and screaming. That would be real, like right now, to laughing right now. Could that be reiterated? Can we show some civility? Okay, it's the same few people always. I am proposing that we have an open recruitment, and I am in agreement that we have to pay deep and keen attention to those that were in application last time, that much has changed in their conduct, behavior, and so on. So I would ask that everyone pay attention to that, and just because someone has experience does not mean that they're not a part of swamp cronyism. So that's a fair statement. Look what happened with Jill Biden and Joe Biden. Look away. See.
Can we not respond? I mean, just be quiet, let people finish.
I haven't even named a person, and they're already moaning, groaning, and having a heart attack over it. So that's the point, is there's been a lot of unfortunate conduct and behavior that has happened. Of course, the fake media will spin and twist it like they always do. I am saying I appreciate having this be open. I do not know if other candidates from the previous one from out of state is even interested or not. Didn't name a person whatsoever. I'm concerned that we still have Ladd v. Toller in place, and so there's a lot of issues to look at and address, and I really don't want to see failures in Shasta County. We have got to do our best to get the most appropriate people that have their ethics and morals in place, and that is going to be the best way to go with who the ad hoc is. I hope all 5 of the supervisors can be a part of that. I'm not into rushing, but I don't want to have things take a long, long time either. So it's a balancing act. Thank you.
Thank you.
David Halligan, followed by Jeff Porter, then Judy Salter, then Christian Gardner.
Good evening, Board. I want to go back and look at the 6/18/19 ROV interviews just 9 months ago. 39 candidates applied. 2 days of interviews with question and answer periods. Day 1, the top 8 were interviewed, reduced down to 4 for day 2. Joanna Francesca, Tom Toller, John Gaglione, and Clint Curtis. As the interviews concluded, there was much discussion by the supervisors on what they were supporting of. One comment from Mr. Kellstrom was his concern that Ms. Francesca might not stay with the election office if she was selected. Ms. Francesca did stay. She was a good soldier, and she trained her new boss, Tom Toller. And then there was Chair Kry's comment during discussion of what he wanted to see at the end of 2 interviews from the second day. His choices. I want to play you the audio.
And Joanna, we've already spoken about this, so I would be supporting Joanna if we don't go with Tom.
Again, Chair Cry, you stated it wasn't going to be Tom wasn't going to be selected, then you would be supporting Joanna. Mr. Harmon, you've stated previously that you don't like being the swing vote. Here's your chance for you, sir, for you or someone else to be the leader and make a motion tonight to select Ms. Francesca. Ms. Fugit already spoke about a direct appointment. Mr. Cry, you often speak of loyalty and how important it is to you and the process. Here's your chance, Chair Cry, and the rest of the board to show your loyalty to Ms. Francesca at the next meeting with your vote. Do the right thing, supervisors. Do the right thing.
And then we have Antonio.
Good evening. I'm going to encourage the board to do a direct appointment rather than a recruitment process. Why would the board go through a recruitment process when just 10 months ago you went through a very expensive and extensive process involving 38 potential applicants over a 2-day period eventually? While it was obvious to me that Joanna Francesca should have been appointed back then, given her tremendous background and experience of 16 years at the department, in the end, after all the weeding out of the unqualified applicants, the 2 days of public interviews of the potentially qualified applicants, it all came down to Ms. Francesca and Mr. Toller. Why, when we have one of the top 2 candidates still on the list, would we move towards a recruitment process and just go through everything that you went through just 10 months ago? I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. Unfortunately, Mr. Toller turned out to be an ROV that was determined to follow the law and conduct elections within the legal framework. But without Ms. Francesca there to guide him, he would have been lost at sea. The election would never have gone off as well as it did. While there were problems, those were technical issues that had nothing to do with the competency of Ms. Francesca or Mr. Toller. She displayed tremendous public spiritedness by deciding to stay on rather than say, I'm out of here, because she wanted the process to go forward professionally. Let's not make the same mistake this time and bypass her. Let's make the obvious and the right choice to appoint directly Ms. Francesca as the next ROV. There'll be an election in November of 2026. If people are unhappy about that, maybe June of 2026. I don't know when it'll occur. They can make their voices heard at that point. But for now, let's appoint Ms. Francesca.
I'm just going to be an echo. We went through this 9 months ago, and just in the last couple of weeks, we've been having all these law enforcement meetings and talking about the need to get the budget under control. I think it's just irresponsible to spend money on this. I move completely for an appointment tonight. We have one candidate who has shown absolute flying colors. I urge you to make the appointment.
Thank you, Board. We're addressing probably one of the most sacred things that our nation is about, and that is elections. The cost that our county has occurred already from loss of legacy of people that really understand and know their position, it has been instrumental, probably up into the millions. Joanna Francesca, should she be even interested in doing the job, and I have a feeling she is, has a wealth of legacy and knowledge and procedure that is vast and nonpartisan. Joanna is a nonpartisan individual. When I asked her if she was even considering what would go on tonight, she said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put my head down and I'm going to do my job. And that's her focus. And that's the kind of people that we have in Shasta County. And we can't afford to get rid of them. on political whims. This is an opportunity to be nonpartisan or bipartisan, to save an awful lot of money, and to save what our nation is based on, which is a democratic representative government. Nonpartisan is the key to an ROV. Let's keep it that way. Let's keep an individual that knows what they're doing, knows how to do it, and is strictly nonpartisan. To do otherwise would be a shame financially and probably, well, ethically. Thank you.
I'm sorry we can't hear who you're announcing.
After Antonia, Jenny, Rich Gallardo, then Susan Weiss.
Good evening, Board of Supervisors. The most important qualities of the next ROV is their ability to perform a completely transparent election. We need someone who is a fighter and will do what is right by the citizens of Shasta County, fighting against tyrannical state overreach. And that's not Joanna. She was not transparent. She's the problem of teaching Toller all that she knew, which led Toller to be where he is now. So blame it on Joanna, because that's where it all happened. Thank you.
Jenny, followed by Rich Gallardo, followed by Susan Weiss, followed by Della Martin.
Good evening, Board. This is just a small microcosm of what you're going to see out there. You're used to a very small minority who complains in your room, but there's a larger amount who listen online, who are out here. And I'm going to tell you, they all want the same thing. We don't want you to spend time, effort, energy, and money when you have someone already there. When you can appoint and save us all time. I do believe the last time we had one of these, Kevin Cry asked, pretty much, how hard is this job? It must be really hard because 2 people have now gone down with stress. Now, if we're going to talk about that, one person hasn't. She's still there. Joanna has led it twice now, but not gotten the pay for it. She's already done the job. And she's still ticking. She's still running. She's still athletic. So far, only one person deserves this job and can do the job efficiently and can handle the stress of these people. I hate to tell you all this stuff about how she isn't transparent, she doesn't help them. I've been there when people were belligerent, when they were angry, when they weren't listening to the things she asked for, and she handled it with grace every time. There's only one thing to do here. It's appoint.
Followed by Susan Weiss, followed by Della Martin, followed by Dolores Lucero.
Conversation for another day, but let's make our registrar actually not an elected position. Fresno County is actually doing that right now so that they don't oversee their own elections. So another day on that. You know, I knew Thomas Toller since 2022. He's an acquaintance. I knew him to be a good, decent man. I wish him the best. I wish his health comes back. But you know what? He wasn't corrupted until he got into that office. He then was corrupted and compromised by whom I don't know. I can only imagine. And now we the people have uprisen because the last 2 elections were the worst in Shasta. Appoint or recruit. And so what we need to do for now, let's do an open appointment process, because the second in command at that elections office is absolutely horrid, and she will not do fairness and transparency. Goodbye, Joanna.
Susan Weiss, followed by Della Martin, followed by Dolores Lucero, then Nathan Liddy.
I'm not saying anything that anybody hasn't said here, but I just have to say my piece. I appreciate the open attitude that you're promoting. I really do. I think it's great that we have this chance to come and speak on this. I think it's great. I want to compliment you on that. However, I think it's time to stop the chaos, the expenditure of time and energy and staff to go ahead and go through this process again. Everybody's making a lot of sense up here about how we already know that she's done a great job. Joanna's done a great job. And any smart business or any smart agency would promote the people within that do a good job. And I can't believe that most of you don't feel that she's really earned her position. Thank you.
Followed by Nathan Blaze, then Daniel Deluo. I hope I said that correctly.
Good evening, board and voters out there. I support the appointment of a person with very strong experience, high moral standards, and adherence to the rule of law for all positions in Shasta County. I agree with most of the speakers tonight that Joanne Prescott is the best possible candidate for the position of ROV. And I had a long statement here, but I already sent this email to all of you supervisors today. I just support appointing Joanna Prescott, and I hope you will do the right thing and not appoint someone without qualifications that has happened over and over with this board in the recent past. Thank you.
Then Jim Burnett.
Well, here we are again, dealing with this. Didn't I say when you were interviewing those people for the election department, how long was Tom Toller gonna last? Didn't I say that? A lot of you heard me say that. Okay, so we're back to the square one. But let's just face it. You basically already have someone lined up. This is just a fake freaking meeting that you have to do. The word is out. We already know. Come on, Chris. You can't keep on being part of this corruption, following Craig and everybody else to bring in your people. You're not treating Joanna fair. You need to look at the laws that you're being violated against Joanna. I'm surprised that she hasn't filed a federal lawsuit for violating her rights to be treated equally in this position that she's been in. And for you guys to play this game that you want solution. Kevin Cry saying you want solution. He doesn't want solution. He likes chaos. How many times does he do this? And how long are you going to follow him every time he does this, Chris? Are you his little puppy that you just follow along with him? Then you got Corky, doesn't even know his ABCs, and yet, and Kevin Cry talks about that, he was trying to pass Q for the people to have a voice. Bull. Nobody trusted you. That's why it didn't pass. It had nothing to do that we don't know what we're doing or why we voted that way. It's because nobody trusts you. Yeah, you go ahead and show the people how you act when people speak. When every time we get up in the podium, you say, we're wasting your time. We're wasting time. It's our damn right. You work for us. We want Joanna. We want her to stay on there. And you continue to do that to her. You're violating her rights. I'm telling you right now, you guys are going to look into a federal lawsuit too. Surprise, she hasn't filed.
Nathan Blaze, followed by Daniel Deluo, followed by Jim Burnett, followed by Gary Cairo.
You're all going to jail.
Not an old president, all of us.
All right, so just because this room's a little bit different doesn't mean that I haven't been experiencing how this board operates for years. So I just want to cut through to the crap here. Like, all these type of decisions you guys have made in the past, as if we're actually here and you're hearing our opinions. No, you guys always make the decision beforehand, before any of this ever happens. This is all fake. Like every other decision you guys have ever done has never come from the input from us people, because you guys have your little private conversations. So what I'm guessing is you guys want to pick Patrick Jones to be the ROV. I think it's on purpose that he's even not here tonight, and you guys think you're being smart about that. Oh, hey Patrick, don't show up, and then they won't think we're going to pick you. I know how you guys operate. I sure hope you don't do that, because if you pick Patrick Jones, he's just going to break state laws and then go to prison for 9 years like Tina Peters. Or we could not make the same mistake you guys already made by not picking Joanna. She was the right choice the first time, and Kevin, taller was your decision entirely. That wasn't even on the other supervisors. So the mistake that we don't have an ROV right now is all on you, buddy. So make the right decision this time and pick the candidate that is going to be the right candidate, that knows how to do the job, that has the experience, and don't make yourself look stupid again.
Jim Burnett, Gary Payro, and Lance.
Hello. I have kind of a personal note. I'm a person that travels for work, and I travel back and forth from Idaho, and I've worked here at the jail. I've been a medical provider for years in this area, and I have a house here. But long story short, I want someone in this position that is going to support voting by mail, because I'm not always available. And I want that to be one of the questions. So I don't mind this process of having 3 or 4 candidates in a bridge process in comparison to 39 candidates. But also, as we've heard from several others, it seems as though we have one candidate that's very strong. So unless there's somebody that's unbelievably strong and can outweigh that, it seems like we have a candidate.
Jim Burnett, followed by Gary Payro, then Lance, and Megan Owens.
Good afternoon. I speak in favor of the recruitment process. The ROV is not a partisan office, and the administration of our elections should not be fought along partisan lines. Everyone should want fair and honest elections that give results everyone can trust. If there is any dispute, there should be an easy way to verify the results to prove or disprove the dispute. However, over the past 30 years, the federal and state governments have passed many election laws, and we were told that they needed to pass these laws in order to remove barriers that prevented people from voting. This premise was simply a ruse, an attempt to convince people that they were being denied a fundamental right. The truth was, and still is, that it's very easy to register and vote. In spite of that, all sorts of bad laws were foisted on us that really had the effect of making our elections subject to rampant fraud by making it easy to cheat. Our next ROV needs to be aware of this situation and not be afraid to acknowledge it publicly. For too long, the elections office has been run by ideologues who willingly advocated for laws that made it easier for fraud to proliferate throughout the election process. Worse, the voters themselves have no way to know whether the election results were accurate and true. We're forced to accept the word of the ROV that everything was perfectly administered and rendered. This is the very definition of blind faith, unquestioning belief in something without requiring proof or evidence. What we don't need or want is a ROV who pledges to continue running elections the same way. We need a fresh set of eyes and a willingness to accept the status quo, because the current election process have failed to produce accurate and reliable results. Thank you.
Gary Payro, followed by Lance, then Megan Owens, then Jillian.
I do not want to badmouth Joanna, and I respect the hard work that she did. But the board decided back when you chose Tom Toller that she was not ready. She had a chance to prove herself in the November election, and we found out that laws were broken and that we had a month-long certification that almost violated federal laws in terms of getting the job done. The job was not done well. I think she is a valuable asset to the department. I think we should try to retain her, but I don't think she's ready. Had she been ready, we would not have had the problems that resulted in a lawsuit against the former ROV for not following his responsibility. Everyone here admits that she trained him, and he was not very well trained. And I think part of the problem is that she did not have a strong boss. And so I would I would urge the board to give her a strong boss. She may be the right ROV in the future. I would estimate that she would be. But we need somebody who's going to promote an atmosphere of teamwork and safety among the election department. I think she did a pretty good job of that. But we need somebody who's going to improve the adherence to state standards. Our department, our ROV office, broke state laws when they were trying to run that election. And as a trained engineer, I also believe we need somebody who is going to create systems and processes that are going to make it easy for people to do their jobs and not just do it ad hoc. We also needed a person of integrity who could stand up to the rigors of the office and maintain a friendly and cooperative attitude with the public and the observers. And I don't think that Joanna stood that. So if you do appoint, make it an open appointment, and it seems like you're leaning toward the other approach. I appreciate your effort on this. Thank you.
Lance, followed by Megan Owens, then Jillian, then Patty Jelovich.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. So I know there are a lot of familiar faces who've occupied the space I'm currently occupying. I am not one of them, a relatively recent arrival in Shasta County and Reading. My name is Lance Starren. Early on, I did have an opportunity, however, to work as a poll worker in a very contentious and difficult election in this county in 2020. And at that time, of course, as you know only too well, the office was run by Kathy Darling and her very capable assistant, Ms. Francesca. So look, given that you now have an absence or a vacancy in this position, normally I would advocate for an open recruitment process. But as it turns out, such a process took place recently under your supervision and your guidance. 2 excellent candidates were narrowed down for the final decision. One of those candidates occupied that office briefly and is now gone. It seems both irresponsible and, frankly, a violation of fiduciary duty for this board to even contemplate entering into another expensive, difficult, time-consuming, and contentious process when the obvious candidate remains in office and has operated competently despite any innuendo or unsubstantiated claims to the contrary. So look, the only reason it's pretty clear that this board did not select Ms. Francesca previously is because she failed a political test, not a test of competence or a test of executive ability. This office, more than any other office in this county, is not a political sinecure. And for this board to treat it as if it is not only disgraceful, but shows disrespect to the citizens of Shasta County who deserve to be well represented in the elections that come up every 2 years and more frequently. So I urge you, if you are going to enter into a process, the top candidate should be a directed appointment of Jessica Francesca to the office she has already competently and capably managed.
Then Patty Jelovich, then Leslie.
Good evening and thank you. I'm Megan Owens. It is not unorthodox when a vacancy occurs to appoint into that vacancy, hire into that vacancy the candidate that was second in line, particularly when that is the person doing the job well. And the most obvious choice for me is that you have someone else in mind. However, the very people hiring you have stated publicly that you would have voted for Joanna in this position if she had more experience. Well, she has more experience. I have a concern about the appointment process you have outlined as well. Truncating the process only truncates our ability to choose the best candidate for all voters. Truncating the process only for advertising the job and not truncating the complete process shows that you already know who you want. Truncating the process for finding applications does not elicit confidence amongst voters that you are truly concerned for a candidate who will respect the law, who will respect the right of access, committing to that access for all voters, and that you will continue to allow Shasta County voting to be free and unfettered into the future. Thank you.
Followed by Patty Jelovich, followed by Leslie, followed by Ron Pember.
Hello, my name is Jillian McCullough. My family and I make our home in Millville. First of all, I'd like to applaud the board for making the commitment to transparency. I think that is of the highest importance here. I'm probably going to say her name wrong. I echo Director Fica's recommendation to ensure that we have someone with experience. I think the minimum requirements aren't appropriate, and so I would just make the recommendation that we get someone with quite a bit of experience. These things can be very complicated, and so I think we're very lucky that we have Ms. Francesca, who seems to have, already done the job and recently went through the interview process. So, to have someone like that, sometimes it can be very rare. And I would just say, you're all businessmen. And I think in business, we focus on people, process, and technology. And I think that, you can have the best process and the best technology, but the house of cards will fall if you don't have the right people. And so I would say that we've already got someone that already knows the job. So I would just ask that you appoint Ms. Francesca instead of going through a lengthy process. Speed is important to try to get someone in there to have the position filled and have us running. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, I'm Patty Jelovich, and I just want to say that, like many people in this room, I don't want to see another cent go towards supporting more debt for our county by going through a long process. The reason in the 2000 election that one of the more recent speakers spoke about, there was it was the election where Kathy Darling Allen was reelected with nearly 70% of the vote. In that same election, our current congressperson and our current president were also elected with 70% of the vote. Some of these people that talk about corruption in our election department think somehow Kathy Darling Allen was able to rig the vote so she won and those other guys did too. Now, how does that even make sense to anybody? It's just crazy. At the same time, the national election was challenged in court. There were 61 court cases, 60 of which showed that there was no election fraud across the nation. There was the Fox lawsuit that was sued by Dominion Voting Machines. Fox station, and I will never call them Fox News. They aren't news, they're propaganda. They paid close to $1 billion to settle for Dominion, defaming Dominion. In this county, this board, majority, voted to get rid of the Dominion machine, which is where the start of this amount of money that has gone down the drain came from. And I would just encourage you to do a direct appointment. We have a very qualified candidate, and then we can vote on a new one in 2026. Thank you.
Good evening. There's people in this room that are right. Our county has a history of wasting money. Over the last 20 or so years, our appointed officials in the ROV position, the superintendent of schools position, the Shasta County sheriff, and the district attorney's office have left midterm. It is a pattern. And then wanted to appoint somebody. They want to groom the next most qualified and then pressure those making the decision to appoint. Our county has wasted tons of money, which is why Measure Q was put forward. The same people that are complaining that we're doing this process again were the ones that shot down Measure Q, that went out and talked about it because it was something you brought forward, therefore it must be evil. So this whole process could have been simpler if we, the people, got to vote for this. Unfortunately, our electeds keep putting us in positions where you have to appoint. I trust your judgment. Thank you very much.
Hello, board. My name is Ron. Whoever gets appointed, we need to be able to observe. We're not allowed to observe. They shut us off. We can't even go in the ROV office, and we need to be able to observe hand counting to make it a fair election, so it's transparent. And we need to have them, whoever you appoint, they need to sign you need to write a contract that they need to sign that says they will observe hand counting and the ballots and stuff like that. And if you need help writing a contract, I'll help you. And there'll be a lot of other people that'll help you as well. So this is my point. Let us have our God-given constitutional rights back. Too many men have fought and died for this right to have it taken away from us, starting with our founding fathers. And I know I've made this speech before, so you're probably tired of listening to me, but I'm sorry if my military attitude and my patriotism offends anybody. Thank you.
Tammy, followed by Nick Gardner, followed by Fran Patterson, followed by Henry Patterson.
It seems like only yesterday when the board was in the same position, same situation, and the process became so polarized and so hostile.
Bring the mic closer to you.
Hello, is that better? Yeah. Start over? It seems like only yesterday when the board was in the same situation and the process became so polarized and hostile, and I surely hope that we can avoid that again. We all have our thoughts and our opinions, and all of them should be offered and heard and considered in a respectful manner, fingers crossed. I hope you, as board members, will base your decision on three things: qualifications, experience, and familiarity with the laws governing the election department. As one who has worked long hours and many days as a poll worker in a variety of elections in Shasta County, I'm familiar with and have a very high regard for the care and the diligence with which our local election department operates. I know of no other person better qualified to assume the position of Shasta County Clerk and Registrar of Voters than Joanna Francesca. She has my full confidence, and I hope she has yours. Thank you.
Thank God for President Trump. He just passed voter ID for national elections. You know, the only reason we're up here is because the failed recallers, Mary Rickert, Tim Garman, Jeff Gorder, Don Duckett, they didn't pass. They went against Measure Q, or we would have gone right to a election and we would have had the will of the people, the majority of the people. You guys didn't want that. You want somebody to appoint your representatives. I would rather it was elected. As far as the mail-in ballots go, we still have absentee ballots, buddy. So if you're in Idaho, you can get one of those.
Speak to R1, please.
There was a large percentage of us that weren't happy with the transparency in the last election, and that's a direct reflection on the gal that these people seem to want up here. My preference was for the guy from Florida, but he didn't get it, so that's the way it is. I would like to suggest, you said this is going to be a recruitment, I'd like to suggest that you reach out to Bob Hosinger and recruit him.
Please don't respond.
Oh, come on, Kevin, let me have a little fun.
No, you can talk. Thank you.
Okay, so anyway, it's their fault we're up here wasting our money on this deal we're going through right now. Had they voted for our charter amendment for electing a vacancy in an office, we wouldn't be here. So their whining just kind of gets old. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fran Patterson, followed by Henry Patterson.
Hey, I haven't been here before. I'm a tired mom, a full-time student. I'm also an employer in Shasta County, and I'd rather not be here, but I feel like if the average citizen isn't coming out and voicing their opinion, I don't know. It seems like maybe we need to step it up. So that's why I'm here. And as an employer, I am completely confused as to what's happening. Because when we need to fill a position, we just go back to the best candidates we had the last time around, and we see if they're still interested. We fill the position, we move on. And if there's no one interested anymore, then maybe we're like putting feelers out again. So appointment is the very logical decision in my mind. I don't know what's happening. I don't know who Joanna Franska, I can't even say her name, is. But I learned a lot about her just listening, and she seems extremely powerful because she was apparently so unqualified that she couldn't be appointed last time or get the position, but yet she was responsible for everything that went wrong at the last election, and she corrupted Tom Toller, who is a lawyer, and like her senior. I don't understand. Like, this is wild, okay? So if she is so powerful, then she would make sense. And if that's not what's going on, then why are we like, if she's qualified, she should be appointed. Otherwise, we need to find qualified candidates. I know the last round, it was kind of, I followed it. It was weird. I'm just your average Joe, okay? I don't understand everything, but this is not making sense. Let's just go back to common sense decisions and get back to business.
Okay, I got 2 minutes. All respect to the supervisors and everybody that has spoken before me, including the veterans, including the people who have kind of not the popular ideas up here. I appreciate that we can do this, and I appreciate that I can speak and share my opinion. So I just want to say a lot of respect to everybody. Heckling's gotta hurt and be really hard to deal with because I'm super nervous. So here's my opinion. Regardless if you appoint or recruit, I urge you to consider the qualifications for the best candidate. The best candidate in my mind should have experience, should be able to reduce cost, should be able to follow election laws, should achieve a fair election, should achieve a free election, should achieve an efficient election, should be nonpartisan, should listen to concerns from everyone for accuracy. Just because we like certain voting machines, we probably, well, that's dumb. Okay, so the best candidate should not follow just whims and conspiracies and anxieties relating to elections. I know those are real, and I know they're really scary, and I know it's really frustrating to feel like elections are being thrown out, but I really feel like our election process has shown time and time again to be fair, free, accurate, efficient. If a candidate seeks solely hand counting, it is not efficient. It's easier to commit fraud, it's slow and costly. Please do not subscribe to these conspiracies. Please, in your decision-making, consider those who are the most qualified. If it's true that you're considering Patrick Henry Jones, I'm just saying if it's true, I don't know where I heard this, but if it's true, consider me, who has no experience in elections, but I would be fair.
Councilor Arnold.
Sorry, I can't chime in like we normally do. I would request that you make 3 separate motions here.
Yeah.
The first one would be whether to make an appointment or not. The second one would be the timeline, and the third one would be the ad hoc. That way the record's clear.
So, all right, so I'm gonna make a motion.
And with that, Chair, I apologize for the interruption. We do actually have a motion and a second on the table to move forward with the recruitment, so I do ask that we start with that.
Before we get into that, can I bring something forward? Absolutely. So, I'm listening to everyone, and I'm going to take a kind of a novel approach to this, and I didn't know originally we're missing one board member. I did not know if we could reach a consensus as to how we would go with this, but I'm going to make a substitute motion first, and here's my motion. I need to know one thing from Monica. Is she here? What would the cost be of this process that we're, if we do a full recruitment?
So the cost would be primarily staff time, which
Or
would be
catastrophic if we don't get it right. Yeah. So.
and additionally any advertising costs.
And what would be the equivalent of staff time as an offset, let's just say, because they wouldn't be doing something else? Do we have any idea how much staff time would be involved, board time?
I'm sorry, I don't have an estimate on that. It obviously is more extensive than a typical recruitment because it's an executive level recruitment, but I can't really estimate that for you here today.
Okay. Let me just continue with my thoughts, and then I'm going to make a motion. I don't know how it's going to go over with this board, but we just did a very thorough process 9 months ago, and the position upon taking office, whoever that ends up being, will be a little over a year and a half. So it's not a very long time. Given the considerations of the cost, I would make a motion that and this has nothing to do with the person that is in the office currently. I'm not making it based on that. And if we go recruitment, if this board votes recruitment, then I will support that process entirely. But at this point, in order to save time, to avoid the cost, and it's a fairly short term, I'm going to make the motion to this board that we appoint the incumbent, which is Ms. Francesca, which is number
8. Hold on, but Council Warner, he made the original motion to go through the recruitment, and now he's making a subsequent motion. Does he need to amend his original, or does he need to, is this something new?
The original will stand if this one is shot down.
So the first thing is, so we do not have an appointment on the agenda today. We have a discussion and direction of staff. So the most you could do today is have staff bring back an appointment of a specific person. You wouldn't be able to make that appointment tonight.
Okay, so that will be my motion, that we bring this back for discussion of the person that's already in office in order to save time, money, and...
So your motion, Supervisor Long, would be to bring an appointment back of who you're saying, who I believe is Joanna.
Correct.
So it's not a discussion. Your motion would be that.
Correct.
So is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Okay.
And we have a second.
Hearing no second. We'll move to. And just for discussion, I got to tell you, Supervisor Long, I'm really shocked that the homework. Listen, you guys are some of the most rude people. So my thing, Supervisor Long, and I'm going to do this like publicly because I think it has to be done. But you have speakers come up, and you wanted to move to a recruitment, which I think is what it should be, and to have 20 people. And if you're just doing quick math and going through that, I mean, that's the work of a supervisor. You do that work of staff time. You do that time prior. So I'm just
Let me answer that back, please.
Sure, absolutely.
So,
I think it's positive to have this dialogue.
in all due respect. So I'm listening to the speakers, but that's not what's driving me. I originally wanted to avoid this entire process, going through all this, because I think we have a qualified person that's already in the job, and it's not going to be forever. It's going to roll to the next election. So I had made the decision that I'm not going to push this right up front because I didn't have a full board here and I didn't think I'd get the vote, which I didn't get the vote. But in my conscience, I said I need to at least offer this as an option because maybe the rest of the board felt similarly, and the rest of the board thought, hey, we can avoid this for a year and a half, and we can go with somebody that we just talked about 9 months ago, and who was a real serious contender down to the two, and members of this current board right now had said excellent choice. So that's where I just wrestled with this, and I didn't think I'd get the vote. So I didn't bring it up, and I thought, well, we'll go through recruitment and we can figure out the process through that. But I am interested in saving the county as much money as we can and not having to go through this process again when we already have a qualified person in office, my opinion. So I thought that is exactly why I just thought I have to amend and at least offer this, and because I don't get to talk to you guys. And I just wanted to poll and see where we are, and we took a vote.
But right up front, you made the motion for recruitment.
Well, no,
I mean, that was your first move to make the motion.
No, but you understood what I just said. Right?
If people in the audience could please not respond.
No, what I said was, I looked, we're missing one, please. We're missing one member, and I didn't think that I would get a consensus or a majority vote. So I thought, okay, the recruitment process at least will open this up, and we will consider a number of candidates, and then there'll be room for further discussion, because I didn't think I'd get a vote. And then when I was listening to our speakers and I was thinking about it myself, I just said, hey, I have to offer this as an option. So I'm not changing my mind. I will go along with the recruitment process, and obviously that's where we're going to go. So I appreciate the opportunity to weigh in, and that was just my thought process, just to save time, to save a lot of money for our county, and we've got somebody that has the qualifications currently to do the job. So that's all I was offering.
And I appreciate that. And Director Fugit, when we talk, I'm not asking the question, I'm just saying from the conversations about this, I mean, most of the people are actually salaried, so we're not adding additional. In terms of the recruitment, I mean, I'm not looking, I mean, you're nodding, so I get it. The most important thing is we're not spending a whole bunch of money on some big campaign. We're going to put it out there. We'll reach out to some of the other candidates that we had in the past, letting them know we're reflying it and going from there. So we have a subsequent motion on the board, or originally by Supervisor Long, seconded by myself. We'll take that vote, which is moving to a recruitment process. All those in favor?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So when he made another motion, he can have both on the table, so we can make a new motion. So he made a motion for another item.
I'll make a new motion for recruitment.
I'll second. All right, so we'll take that again. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. The next, no, I think we do one for the process you wanted about.
The timeline.
Yes, the timeline. So I'm going to make a motion. And again, I could amend this, but I'm going to make a motion that we post the job tomorrow, have it close on the 20th. On the 21st, we'll have those applicants pared down to a pool of 3 to 5 with interviews and to follow on the 30th. with the final appointment made on roughly May 13th.
I would still prefer a shorter open period, but I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Now let me ask you one question, Council Armour. If Director Fugit, because I made it for the 30th, did that motion need to say like somewhere around the 30th? Like if for some reason moved to May 1st, is that a problem?
What Director Fugate had requested in her presentation was that you give some ability to the CEO to move these dates as necessary.
Would that be included in the motion?
Yeah, but you can make an additional motion.
Okay. All right. I'm going to make a motion then that we allow the CEO to move those dates as he sees fits within those close parameters of the original motion.
I'll second.
Do we have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Now we're going to move on. We have two more motions. One around the minimum qualifications. I'm going to say a BA or related managerial or leadership experience, experience in an election or ROV office, or working in elections. So because last time what we did is I'm sorry, that's my motion.
Do you want to include a time of experience, like 4 years or 6 years? Or?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, any of that. That's pretty broad. Let me pause my motion. Because what happened last time is we set the minimum qualifications for the ROV, which was 18, a resident of Shasta County, and so that's what it was last time. So I think we want to.
So you had the 4 years last time?
No, that's what I'm saying. We did the minimum requirements to run for the office. That's why we had 30.
Oh, okay.
We had people that were literally right out of high school because they qualified by the state to be a candidate.
I'm just worried that if we
and I don't want to do that this time.
If we don't set standards for qualifications, we're going to get hundreds of applications.
Well, we got 39 last time. It was the broadest.
That's why you weed them out.
Yeah.
That's why you have ad hoc committee to narrow them down.
Okay, so I mean, you can look at the sample right there. So I would say a BA related managerial leadership experience, and then or because I'm not even sure if our current assistant ROV has a BA. She has a lot of experience. So we say with a minimum of at least 4 years of elections before you can swap. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Yeah.
And I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I'm going to make a motion that Supervisor Long and I form an ad hoc committee and work with Director Fugit to screen applicants and bring to this board a pool of 3 to, I would say, we'll just say 3 or more, but less than 6.
I will second that.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair Christ, can I ask for one quick clarification?
Yes.
On the motion regarding the minimum qualifications. For the 4 years of elections experience, are you looking for any related election experience?
Yes.
Elections experience in a public sector agency? What are you?
Election experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. And then I think, I think we've covered that, correct? We have all those. And so one thing we didn't set Director Fugit with the ad hoc is what our selection criteria is, but I guess we'll just bring forth 3 or 5 or 6 between us. That's open-ended enough. All right. Is there anything else, Ms. Blankenship?
No, Chair, that's it for me.
Council Armour? CEO Rickard? No, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, can I, sorry, apologies, but can I also ask that we get some authority to establish the interview process without having to bring it back for additional direction from this board, whether that's through the CEO or through the ad hoc committee?
Yeah, okay, so we need a motion for that, Council Armour. Remember last time we did it, okay, so I would make a motion then that the ad hoc committee brings forth the finalists for interviews and the process. Oh man, hold on. Let's have a board discussion. I want to give Supervisor Long, Supervisor Harmon an opportunity. What we did last time, you want to talk briefly about the interview process, day one?
Sure. So the last time we invited any applicants who passed screening to an open interview process After the first day, each supervisor was able to select a candidate to progress to day 2. And that, that was who was invited to day 2 interviews. We, in advance, discussed and prepared a list of interview questions, which were brought to the board. So that is part of the direction and authority I would seek here, is that we can establish and prepare those interviews in combination with the ad hoc committee or the CEO without needing to bring it back to this board again.
My only question with that would be if this screening process is going to come up with a much smaller group that advances to the first interviews, it sounds like. Are we going to have 5 to bring back to day 2, or are we going to have? Is there going to be 5 that we would invite back to day 2, or is it going to be 5?
No, there won't be a day 2.
You and
I are gonna pare it down to 3 to 5. No, I only said no more than 6, just because I want to give us that flexibility in case we do. Like you said, 100. I don't think we're
So instead of each supervisor picking, it'll probably be you and me picking.
No, you and I are going to pick who's going to interview for it.
Right.
We're going to pick the 3 to 5 roughly people.
Yeah. Okay.
And then this board with Supervisor Plummer will pick one of those on that one day. We'll have one day of interviews. And my thoughts are, all of us, we'd have an open interview. We'd each get maybe 4 or 5 minutes with each applicant, some questions we want to ask, and just do it that way.
Perfect.
So we would schedule roughly 30 to 45 minutes for each applicant and knock it out on April 30th or something thereof. So is that good, Ms. Fugit?
Yes.
Yeah, Supervisor Long, I appreciate you. I really do. All right, anything else?
We need a second for that motion.
Oh, that's right, that's a motion, sorry.
I'll second.
All right, Supervisor Long, second. All those in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. Ms. Blankenship, cover everything in that. Ms. Fugit, you feel good?
Yep.
Council Larmer, see you right here. With that, this meeting is adjourned.